20 Minute Tim's episode 303. I'm your host Jamie, and I am joined as always by Stephen.
What's happening?
And Melly.
Yes.
And nothing to fear. Absolutely nothing to fear. There was a nervy encounter. We were nervous in the pre-match, Stephen, the big match build-up. We had to just acknowledge that was a very important game. All the games are important. All games from now on are important, but that was an important one to get back to winning ways. But in the end, Melly, nothing to worry about.
No, it was a bit of canter in the end, wasn't it? It was a controlled performance from Celtic, and the early goal sort of settled it down. Should have scored at least another one before half time, but the only reason it got nervy is because it was so long in sealing it. But Ross County never created anything because we didn't let them.
I saw a headline that a lot of people had a bit of beef with, Stephen. The BBC wrote Celtic win at Ross County and win in Dingwall in a nervy affair, and so many people unbelievable nervy affair, 2-0, and then showing the BBC the stats and all that. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was nervous watching it.
Aye, it's very easy to look at the result and say, what are you talking about? It was 2-0. But there was a sense of, this is a little bit tense. But yeah. I'll qualify that by saying the only reason I think, in my opinion, that it was in any way tense or nervy wasn't because Ross County were good, or, I mean, they were all right. They were all right for Ross County. But it wasn't that. It wasn't. He said once again, patronisingly, they were so good. That a boy, rubbing wee Malky on the top of the head.
That much credit. I'll get to Ross County in a minute.
It wasn't that Celtic were bad. It wasn't that Celtic didn't look like they were going to win the game at all times. It was just that, remember what I said about the semi-final was that it didn't follow the script. You know, Rangers were supposed to be tired. We were supposed to, once we scored the goal, we were supposed to go on and dominate. I think this was similar in that when Kyogo's back in form, back in the team for a start, gives the fans a bit of a lift, go into a really early lead, they've got a player booked after 4 minutes or something like that. More chances come. Kyogo misses sitters and everything. The script here is, we're going to absolutely do them. And then you find yourself sitting there going kind of, it's 70 minutes gone, lads, still 1-0.
It's because we've seen that movie before under Celtic, hasn't it? You've seen this movie before where it's a must-win game. You've got the 1-0 win, and you gave a wee bit of credit there at Ross County. I don't give them any credit at all. Their tactics were absolutely abysmal. Ross Callaghan, I think that's his name, or Callahan, however you pronounce it.
Doesn't matter.
Don't know what team he supports. I can guess, but I don't know for sure which team he supports. He was on one. He was on the absolute tear. A challenge on Callum McGregor that the referee saw absolutely nothing wrong with, which was astounding to me. You pointed out pre-podcast that there was actually, was it yourself, Melly, there was one on Taylor as well that the referee missed prior to both of the other tackles.
Well, it was me but I don't think it was a foul on Greg Taylor, but I didn't notice it at the time because it only became fully in full context after he did those things right at the start that he was right up it. It was 80s stuff. Go out and get in amongst them, go out and stick one on there, get on top of their best player. But he had gone right through Greg Taylor. I think he won the ball, in fairness to him. I think he won the ball. It was very, very early on. He just kind of bundled Taylor over on the touchline. But then within 3 minutes, he had done that on McGregor, and he had been booked for a wild one on Ralston as well. And it brought to mind the debate we had last week about the whole Lundstrom thing. Not to drag us back into that, but it'll come up a wee bit later on as well because we've got them yet again. Inexplicably, we're talking about Rangers yet again for this three games in 5 weeks or whatever it was. But it brought to mind the debate we had about Lundstrom. And when we released our podcast talking about that, we got some YouTube comments from, supporters of another persuasion, and it wasn't just the usual stuff. It wasn't just the usual paterless emoji strewn nonsense, right? There were some people trying to make a reasonable debate that, but Lundstrom, think about it, if he got booked for one of the first ones, he doesn't play like that anymore because he calms down, he takes the warning, as if no one's ever been booked twice in a game. It happens all the time. And crucially, he wasn't booked, so he never received that first warning to calm down anyway. But the Callaghan thing, or however you pronounce it, it was people say he should have been booked for the thing on McGregor first. He should have, but it wasn't even a foul, and he showed in replays that he would basically went through the player to win the ball. But if he's booked for that, then he doesn't just about break Ralston's legs shortly afterwards as well. See, in fairness, that at least the referee may have bottled the first one, but at least he got the card out right away. He didn't shit himself like most referees do and say, I can't book somebody in the first 5 minutes. He actually did, and it kind of curtailed his game a little bit for the rest.
What you say, it was like something for the 80s. That was Malky Mackay's approach to that game. That would just send Callaghan out to kick and go through the back of people. There was another couple of players actually who were basically on the same wavelength as Callaghan. And then in the second half, I saw Ross County. Their tactic was any time they got into the final third, they would hit the deck, win a free kick, and then shell it into Celtic's box. Their tactics were very much something for the 80s. And obviously, that's what you need to do to survive in this absolute muck league this season. Everyone else in this league is skitters. So obviously that's why Ross County have managed to come up with a way to play to survive. But one thing I did like about Celtic's approach to the game was, for many parts of the game, Ross County were chasing shadows because a lot of their players were busting to close us down. They were doing that thing where they just closed down one player goes to one player, and we had so many passing options. We were so dynamic off the ball that we were just moving the ball about. So by the time this guy's closed, we've already moved the ball at the next guy, but Ross County are switched on enough to press as a unit. So we're just knocking it about, and some of our passing was sensational. Yeah,
it was great. I thought the two fullbacks in particular found a lot of space and were very good, both on the ball and going forward. And Celtic done what they didn't do last week against Rangers, is move the ball quickly from the centre backs into the midfield, and we seem to get a lot of joy out of it. And when we got that early goal, we just sort of passed them to death, didn't they? I can remember, what was it, one block from Carter Vickers, but apart from that, Ross County didn't create anything. Again, that's because Celtic don't let them. They were controlled, dominant, and I just thought, look, we should win this game. We should win this. We should have been 2 up at half time, as I said, at least. But going into it towards the end, there is tension in the crowd, but I don't think there was any tension on the pitch from the players because they knew what they're doing, and it was sort of 1-0. It would have been a dominant 1-0, but 2-0 was icing the cake.
How many chances did Kyogo have?
Oh, I know. I forgot that was kind of part of the deal with Kyogo, innit? Misses big sitters, didn't he? when he's not scoring.
The 1-on-1 with the keeper was pretty unforgivable.
Got to score that. Aye. Absolutely got to score that, and that would have gone some way to relieving the tension a good bit if that goes in. A couple of the other chances, there was one really great move between him and Maeda down the left, and they both just kind of took one touch together, and Kyogo skied it over the bar. That wasn't as easy as it may have looked to me. It's very difficult to score from that angle, but the one-on-one with the keeper, you've got to do better there.
Good to have him back though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great, and it was good to see him, Hatate and Maeda all starting in the one pitch. He was good. His movement again is brilliant, and you see just pins teams back because he is either on the shoulder or he starts a lot of the time offside and moves and then jumps back on. So he's a handful for defenders.
Can I just stop you? There's no difference whether you're onside or offside because there was so many. There was about 2 or 3 really poor offside calls in this game.
Well, he had a goal disallowed as well, which was wrongly disallowed. He was just onside, so he's timed his run perfectly and didn't get the rewards. But a couple of finishes weren't great. There was Cal McGregor had a few wild ones as well that he should have done better. He's usually quite clinical when he gets into that sort of area. He's got a decent, tidy finish, but shooting was a wee bit wayward, and 4 or 5 times the ball went right out the stadium.
It did go right out the
Cal
stadium.
McGregor once, he rattled the bar of the stadium and it came back in. Did you see that? He rattled it over the actual crossbar, hit the stadium, and it bounced back on the pitches. Uncharacteristic from him. There was one, I think it was in the second half, that it took a massive bobble just before it, and the shot itself was absolutely wild. And he did that token footballer thing. You look back and curse the wee bobble bit. Kind of like if you're walking down the street and you trip on a wee bit of pavement, you need to go back and kind of scowl at the pavement.
In case somebody saw you.
In
case somebody saw you. I think the dynamic with Kyogo back, because Ange said pre-game that Kyogo was finally fit enough to start games. I think it was pretty evident to everybody that watched the Cup semi that he was nowhere near fit enough. Yeah. And he says that Giakoumakis wasn't yet fit to start game, and that sort of made his decision for him based on who was fit. But he adds a completely different dimension to the team, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's class. He's just a class act, and sometimes he's not involved in the game a lot, but you just know if you give him a couple of chances, he'll be in there, he'll get a shot away, and that's another header. He won up at Dundee. He's pretty clinical in there. It was a good cross from Jota, who also played well, so it's just good to have him back. But it's also the fact that we've got him playing, but we've got Giakoumakis on the bench, and when it was getting later in the game, when you're thinking, right, maybe we need something different up there, just a wee bit of physicality, on comes Giakoumakis, and you're looking at the sub Celtic made yesterday. All good players, man.
We Player of the Year, double Player of the Year came off the bench. David Turnbull last year's double Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year.
Absolute insult that. I know. He came into the team in about December or something like that, and managed to get
it was a protest vote. No offence, Dave. No offence. Obviously, you deserve your award. I'm sure you cherish it.
It's such a great time to get Kyogo back as well, because it would, if we were missing these guys, both Giakoumakis and Kyogo at the same time, it would start to get towards, and Maeda has been added since then as well, but remember we're basically playing without a striker for ages earlier on the season, and despite the fact you've got loads of good attackers in there, loads of good attacking options, you really need that focal point, the guy in the middle, because it's all very well having very similar wide forwards and all that, but if you've not got that central striker, it's just not the same.
I think last time we were up at Dingers, it was Juranovic, Montgomery and Abada up front.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
That was the Tony Ralston game as well. So you're looking at it going, look, we have come a long way in a short space of time with the options we have, the subs you can bring on, the players we can call from the bench, but also like Juranovic was injured. He's the only injury for Celtic right now, and Tony Ralston came in and was brilliant again. He's a really good player, so it's looking good for Celtic. We've got most players fit and people coming back into form like Kyogo, Jota.
His goal was one of the boys said on the post-match press conference, not the post-match press conference, the post-match podcast, the reaction podcast that we do for the pages. One of the boys said it was Ralston-esque, and to be honest, I thought that watching the game, he's got a great leap for a short man.
Hang time,
he's got
hang time. I don't quite know the physics of that. Is it possible for individuals to just jump for longer than I don't know, but
I'm sure.
Get in touch, get into the comments. Is it possible?
Sure it is a thing. Yeah. I'm sure it is. I'm sure I've seen a basketball YouTube thing about what hang time specifically is.
Right.
So yeah, Kyogo definitely had it.
Yeah, he does, and great header. And it's not something you expect of a guy like that. You maybe kind of make judgments based on his physicality and not really expect him to get a lot of headers. But Maeda's had several headers as well.
You're furious if you're the centre halves. Kyogo is 5'7", I think. I'm not taking the piss. He's like 5'7", and he out jumps two big bully centre halves to stick the ball away. Great cross, perfectly timed header.
Yeah, it was good, and that's the thing. Like, it doesn't really matter what size you are if he makes the space like he done, and he's got the perfect delivery from Jota. It's a good header right in the corner. Keeper's no chance, and it's just one of those ones you're like, right, that's it, boys. That's it. We're in front. We've not got that sort of nerves when it builds up into the game. But I thought Celtic played well and deserved the goal. And after that, you just get that second goal. It would have been ideal, a bit closer to half time. But some of the stuff we played in that first half was really, really good, because despite what you say about Ross County, like, they have done ridiculously well this season, considering where they come from as well, and they are a very effective team. And there was a lot of chat before the game that they've not lost up here since Celtic beat them. Well, that's because they've not played Celtic. The big dogs haven't been there.
Jota played pretty well. I got some comments, some disses. People were cyberbullying me because I was pretty pissed off at Jota's performances as of late since he's came back, but I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I did predict a goal from him. Anybody that follows us on Twitter will see that the prediction for this week was a Jota goal. I heard a rumour today that Jota's house hunting.
Oh.
Now, would you be doing that for a couple of months?
What country is the house hunting in? Just before we move on.
Is Benfica a place?
I don't know.
So, no, but I heard a wee rumour that he's been house hunting in Glasgow. He was very non-committal after the game, saying, look, I'm just here to concentrate on my football. But do you know what, Steve, that's perfect for me.
Yeah.
That is, see, was such a crucial run-in. That's all I want to hear for the player. Focused on winning. I'll worry about my future later. If Celtic want me, that's fine. Discuss that at the end of the season. But man of the match, yes or no?
Yeah. I think he deserved it. I think he's scored. He scored the crucial winner, set up the first one, and created a couple of other chances as well. He looks really good on the right side. He drifted out onto the left at one point as well later on in the game, but he looks really good on the right, which I wouldn't have expected from him. He seems tailor-made for that kind of left-sided cutting in and shooting type role, but he's not actually very good at that. He's not got a great shot when he comes in off that left. He looked a lot more deadly, looked a lot more dangerous and full of intent when he was on the right. So it was his best game for a good while, and he looked right up for it, to be honest, and he contributed massively. And what was that? I mean, there's no getting away from it. That game was massive. That game was huge. It really, really was. I was really nervous about it, not because it's Ross County. Well, in part because it's Ross County, because I thought they'd make it difficult, which in part they did. But I was starting to think about, like, there's still too many games left of this season for my liking. There's too many games left.
Well, it was an everyone, because you drop points there, and then anything can happen in the Rangers game. You're like, fucking hell.
I know. I'd started thinking about Hearts as well. Hearts going to be right up for it, practicing for the cup final and all that kind of thing. So it was a good one to get out of the way. It was a huge result.
Yeah, it was. You could sense that at the game and after the game, everybody's like, right, 4 games to go, 3 of them at home. We need to win 2 games, and we are going to clinch the cinch. So it was
thank you, Cinch, by the way. Thanks for putting on a really good season for us. All worthy league sponsors.
Might come back to them later. If you're going to blur out Cinch.
Yeah, we can't say. You can't say. I love that. That was
the pettiest.
The pettiest of. And Rangers playing off like it was Motherwell that did it. When the Motherwell manager presumably, well, he was interviewed in front of the Cinch, and then when the Giovanni, it's the pettiest thing ever.
Who lets them do that? But surely
our bum league, the people that run our bum league. So,
no,
you imagine that happening in the Premier League in England. Just some guy with a bit of masking tape. No. I sell BMWs, so I'm not having Vauxhall written here. Get that tape.
I'm just going to start doing that with strips I don't like over my left shoulder.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you as well, like Jota coming back, playing well and looking like he's back to his best. He's a great option to have. But when I watched the game back today, at the game I felt Hatate didn't have a great game, but watching it back I thought he was fine the first half.
I thought he was fine the first half.
Tailed off a wee bit in the second half. What did you make his performance?
I think it was exactly the same as it always is with Hatate. I thought I think you're right, he was absolutely fine in the first half, and then the fitness goes in the second half, and that's when
there was comments this week as well, didn't he?
Right, yeah, that's right. Comments about how exhausted he's been since coming to Scotland, emotionally and physically and all that. So I didn't really expect to see him starting this game, to be honest.
Do you think here's the question about Hatate, Stephen, though. Do you think the way that Hatate's performance was going, do you think he's a bit of a ticking time bomb with regards to the dip? He starts well and then drops, but Ange seems to persist with him. Stick. And there is an argument to say that maybe Ange just try to play him through this bad form. But if the guy's knackered, if he's emotionally and physically exhausted, how much more juice can you squeeze out of him?
Well, that's a good point to make. Ange clearly trusts him. Ange clearly has a huge amount of belief in him because we've got midfield options. We've got players coming back.
Plenty.
And I've been looking for Turnbull to come back into the team, but I don't think he really warranted his position just yet. It's one of those Kyogo things as well. We just need to trust that players will be ready when they're ready. When the manager says they're ready, they'll come in and play a part. We can't really force that. So Hatate, he didn't play badly, but he just tired really, really awfully after half time. There was a period round either side of the hour mark where he just started giving the ball away constantly, and I thought he would get taken off at that point, but O'Reilly went off, then he went off a wee bit later on, I think. So no different to usual, but it is a strange one because after that article or the interview came out where he's basically talking about how exhausted he is, and he looks at times, not all the time, he just tires really badly in the second half of games. I thought that would have been a good opportunity to take him out, but Ange Postecoglou clearly wants him in there for a reason. He's not going to just play this guy for absolutely no reason. That's not going to happen. You're not going to play in an Ange team through anything other than merit, so I can only assume that that's why he's there. But he does look shattered. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's got next season because this will be removed. See this, he's knackered. He's played a full season in Japan. He's been travelling. He's played international. That'll be gone by the start of next season, so we won't have that safety net anymore. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's properly got, and I think he'll be absolutely brilliant next season.
Pre-season under his belt as well probably make the world of difference for him. And I think he was decent yesterday and then just sort of tailed off. But what do you do? Do you rest him then we're playing week to week now? It's not as if we've got 2 games a week currently. So
he just has to suck it up, doesn't he? He just needs to put his big boy pants on.
It's this end of the season, and look, if Celtic, Ange Postecoglou might have been playing him saying, look, give me 70 minutes and we've got options in the bench. It's something we didn't have at the start of the season. So when you look at the bench, Rogic and Turnbull coming on, they were 2 main starters for us. We've got a top goal scorer, Leila Bada there, Forrest coming on. So the options were good and Celtic used them, and this 5 subs is really helping us see out games as well. Can I imagine bringing on Tom Rogic, man? Is
that our best 11 without Juranovic? Potentially an argument for Rogic in there.
But Ange seems to have different options for different games, doesn't he? I like Rogic, but I think O'Reilly and Hatate maybe going forward. I would really like to see how Turnbull and O'Reilly get on together. I think that could be a good partnership, but like, it's not as if we were looking at Hatate saying, he's having a nightmare every week, get him out, or Rogic, he's not doing it. Everybody's doing it. Turnbull's come back from injury, so to see all those options there is good, and I probably would see Juranovic coming in, and that is our strongest 11, but how often do you get to play that? It's a tough one.
So that was Ross County. That was the game before the game. I don't know if I've got it in me for another Glasgow derby.
The sweet relief after that second goal went in was brilliant, and the celebrations after it, because that's it. And,
yeah.
And
but in many ways, that was the appetizer, wasn't it? That was the game before the game. You win that, and then once that second goal goes in, as you say, everyone is party time. But the focus immediately turns. Don't even get a second. It immediately turns to the Rangers.
It's a big
game.
appetizer, though, isn't it? It's like having a burrito as a starter or something like that. That's a tough going. What's the main course going to be like? Jesus. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Rangers game. It's been non-stop recently. We've not had the chance to really build up to Rangers games recently because they've just been coming thick and fast. But this is a big one. I can imagine a scenario where
you say that last
I did.
But they're all the big one, Melly.
Well, it's not the big one in that it could be like the thing that tips the title race either way. I think we're beyond that now. I think this could be the game where we've effectively done it. So barring an absolute collapse, if we win this game, you could lose the rest of the games like 14-0 or something like that, or one of them 14-0 and still no being in any danger. So
and we've got to play Motherwell, don't we?
That's the last game, isn't it?
Yeah, we were absolutely abysmal against Rangers. I watched that game, obviously hoping for a Rangers slip up. Motherwell were less than pathetic.
Yeah, another team in this bum parade we call a league.
Why did they not use a ball in training? Because none of them looked like they'd seen one before.
I've not got the league in front of me here, but I think Motherwell are another one of these teams that have won like 3 games since Christmas. They managed to weasel into the top 6.
I think you do that like 60s training where they basically just put a rope around all of them and they just move around the training pitch in lines.
They were absolutely crap, but I think obviously Rangers and Hearts are going to be the 2 most difficult games. I think this Rangers game, they've got a number of players out, right enough. They've got Roof, who's out, Ramsey. Flop. Absolute flop. They've got Ramsey out. They've got Helander. Balogun gets sent off. Am I missing anyone? Morelos. He was their player of the year. Morelos didn't turn up to accept his award. Strange one.
There's some weird name for the top goal scorer as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, and there was some odd context. Everything Rangers do is weird. I mean, everything Rangers do is weird. So for the game here, I think what we need
Golden Brogue. I was too late with that, but it's going in anyway.
Yeah, there you go. Just drop it in. I think there's a few things we need to do for this game because we've only got Juranovic out. We've only got Juranovic out for our game, right? But I think one of the things is we need to buy one of those arches right, out of the tunnel and have Cinch written on it.
Oh, yeah.
And then have Rylan.
Oh, I get him in.
We need to get Rylan up to do the Paradise Windfall at half time. He's the Cinch guy. He's the Cinch
he's tweeted all the champions of the lower leagues so far, so he's just waiting on us.
We're like this.
Cinched it, boys.
waiting for Rylan to get involved.
Got that tweet on the drafts, haven't we?
No, we can't usurp Rangers' pettiness, but we do have to beat them on the pitch. And turning back to more serious matters, if I could wrangle this podcast towards them, Melly, it's going to be a difficult game. If you ask me to predict something right now, draw.
Well, we'll see how Rangers get on Thursday. Hopefully they get pumped, but
you should be supporting them in Europe.
Never.
For the good of Scottish football, blah, blah.
Never happens.
No.
Name another league where that happens. That is football. Football. The basis of football is you don't want the other team to do well. That's what the competition is.
If they're doing well, then you're not most of the time. So of course not. But it's going to be a huge game. But like Stephen said, looking forward to it. And when you look how far Celtic have come in such a short space of time over the season, like September, you're dreading games against them. Now we're going into this going, we could potentially 9 points clear with a goal difference is going to be pretty much it'll be over 20 if we beat them, I think. So it's like you're looking at that going, this is a massive, massive game. And going into it, looking at the league form, Celtic, the form is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Rangers have got injuries and a game to contend with before that. So Celtic can go out and play the way they did it last game at Celtic Park, because the atmosphere for that and the performance was unbelievable. So if we can do that, it'll be champions elect. But
Stephen, sorry, Melly, on you.
Just like Stephen was saying, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not really fearing it. I think Celtic can do well.
I'm opposite camp for you. Steve, Melly mentioned this midweek game. Rangers have got. Do we have to just disregard that now?
Yeah. Basically, I'm not really bothered. It's Leipzig. Is Leipzig away? They've got.
No, I mean in terms of affecting their performance.
Yeah. Well, we saw that the last time, didn't we? We went into that game assuming they were going to be shattered, and they absolutely weren't. That was completely dispelled for me. So, can it happen? Can it make a difference? I'm sure it can, but I don't think we can count on that type of thing anymore. A few things at play, though. I think this is why the Ross County game, again, was such a huge result. We're going to be turning up to that game in full sombrero mode, thinking basically this is it.
We've got to take inflatable kangaroos and the hats with the corks. That's what we've got to take.
Oh yeah, sombreros is so 2003. So it's got to be the corks thing. Racially insensitive.
There's a guy in front of me at the game yesterday who had exactly that on.
I'll be there at Parkhead,
on the Castlemaine 4X, if such a thing still exists.
I might wear a shumper.
A shumper and shorts to the game. But we are going to be going in full party mode here. Now, this game, we shouldn't turn up thinking, right, we've already won the league. No. That's excessive to a point. But good reason to think that just get this over with. Just go out and do our job and play as well as we know we can. Be the better team like we know we can. And it's basically right there. It's right there. And Melly said something about the form this season that the Celtic have been in the league. I think it's only when this is over we're going to be able to look back on this season as how good it was, by the way, because it's been tense and we've been involved in a title race for the first time in years. And it's only going to be in the fullness of time we look back and think Celtic were really good that season. Regardless of what happens, they did a really good job on it.
I don't know what the biggest points turnaround has been off the top of my head. But if we beat Rangers, take it to 9 points, from where we were last season to winning the league by 9 points or 9 points plus, is remarkable. Yeah. And it is remarkable the job that Ange's done thus far, because we just need to listen back to what we were saying at the beginning of the season. What would you take? We would take losing the league as long as we're in touching distance of Rangers. We wouldn't take that now, by the way. we wouldn't take that now, by the way. But I'm just the opposite for you, Per. I'm really nervous about this game. I don't know if I've got spooked, if the cup semi shook me a wee bit. I think once I get to Celtic Park and the place is bouncing and the place is rocking, then I'll feel a lot more comfortable. I don't think Rangers are going to roll up and beat us. I just don't think it's going to be this formality. And I think a lot of it, as usual with these games, my nerves will sort of depend on who's starting. I mean, who are you having up front? You having Kyogo? You having Giakoumakis?
Oh, it's a tough one. I think there's a couple of questions about the starting lineup, but Giakoumakis has done well against him. He's just not got the goal. Kyogo's not really had one start, but he was out in the wide area. So, I don't know, man. I think I'd go with Kyogo. He's got the goal yesterday. He seems to be building back, and I think it's more effective bringing Giakoumakis on rather than bringing Kyogo on later in the game.
I think Andrew start with Kyogo, and I think that's the right decision because we've not really seen full flight Kyogo against Rangers, have we? So I think he'd be raring to play against Rangers, and he is a quality player. And I think his movement, his pace, cause their bum centre halves a lot of problems.
I can't decide. I really can't. I'm going back and forward in my head here, and we've had this debate very recently as well. And the ultimate answer we came up with was, "But Kyogo's a better player."
Yeah.
But for the particular set of skills for the task at hand here. Right, so we've established earlier that Balogun is suspended for now unless they pull some appeal bullshit or something like that, right?
No, Rangers.
So he's out, Hellander's out, so it's going to be Bassey and Goldson in the middle with Barisic at left back. They did a bit of a number on Tom Rogic in the last game.
Yep.
Does Giakoumakis help with that though? Does he help make it a bit more physical in there? But then I don't think that outweighs Kyogo's movement. Kyogo's movement is masterful. It's absolutely brilliant. It was highlighted again against Ross County. Just the wee peeling runs off the crosses and all that. I really can't decide. I would be perfectly happy with either one, and I concede massive pros for each player, to be honest.
Fellas, have you started spring cleaning yet? The carpets need cleaning, the drapes need dusting, and your lawn needs mowing. Spring has sprung, and the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming have the best tools for cleaning aisle 5 in your pants. Time to clear out your winter bush and join 4 other million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS. Manscaped is committed to raising awareness for the most common form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35 and is giving support for fighters, survivors and families impacted by testicular cancer as part of their We Save Balls initiative. So, get 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. It's almost an embarrassment of riches we've got with the pair of them, because you can see a situation where they both come on, they both do excellently, and I mean, I don't think there's much debate that Kyogo is just a better footballer, which I think is probably the reason we're going to start him.
Jamie.
Melee.
4-4-2. Come on.
What, the old Jan Vennegoor, Scott McDonald?
Big man, little man, get it launched up. Centre half, launch it up to Giakoumakis, flick on, Kyogo runs in behind. What were you worried about?
They'll not know what to do.
1995.
I mean, are we just assuming here it's going to be Maeda on the left, Jota on the right, and then one of the two? There's not going to be any curveballs up front, will there be?
I don't think so. I think with the way Celtic play and the way they performed at Ibrox, the front three, when it was Giakoumakis in there, pressed, and when Kyogo's in there, if he's in instead of Giakoumakis, it will be the same or even more intense press. So put Rangers under pressure after they will have the midweek game, and they should be tired if that happens. But Celtic should be pressing the life out of them, and with Maeda, Jota and Kyogo, that could be very tasty to watch. The
Celtic players will be really looking forward to this, Stephen. They'll be looking forward to getting them at Parkhead, because that was a different beast entirely. The last time we played them at Celtic Park, it was ferocious. We were right on top of them. Callum McGregor running about calling people shite bags.
Brilliant.
They can try all they want at Hampden, right? You do see all that. Do all that at Hampden, but see, when you come to our house, that doesn't fly. It doesn't happen at Celtic Park. And also, it's not going to fly because a lot of pressure on the referees this weekend. There's been a lot of focus on them as of late. Not purposely, but you can see it's probably going to be John Beaton, the referee. I don't know if it's been announced yet.
Right.
But you can't see a situation where John Beaton comes in and just lets Lundstrom do what got so much attention at Hampden.
Yeah,
and nor should he.
No,
incidentally.
Well, that's it. You can't know, because that's been where all the media focus is. And I loved some of the chat online about how Celtic fans are targeting Lundstrom. It's unfair. They're making him a scapegoat and all that. Months after they were pulling their buzz about, remember Kyogo went down for a penalty, and fairly it was a penalty, and he was being branded a cheat in newspapers.
Was
and all that.
They got the head of referees. The only time the head of referees, I can't remember his name, Malcolm. The only time the head of referee has come out to talk about refereeing stuff is on the Kyogo.
I think his name is Campbell Finlay.
Campbell
Finlay Argyle.
Oh, there was definitely an Argyle in there.
Alice there. Where on earth were we going? Oh, referees. I mean, it doesn't really matter who it is.
It was more about Rangers' approach to the game and Celtic's approach to the game, and how we're expecting to see it different this time.
Well, that leads me to talk about the midfield, I suppose, because Lundstrom was, I mean, it would take all that. We're whining about these fouls and all that, and should have been booked, probably should have been sent off as well. But he was good in the game, and he was very physical, and he was allowed to get away with that, yes, but he still played the game very well. At this point, in normal circumstances, I probably would have seen conversations regarding Beaton coming back in happening on social media and all that, but he hasn't played. He's not been in the squad for the last couple of games, and I think Ange only really alluded to an issue that he has. I don't know what that is, but I don't really see him coming in for this game at all. So we're really looking at McGregor and two others. I think it'll probably be the same as the game at Ross County. Probably Rogic in for O'Reilly, actually, come to think of it. But I think it would be unusual for Hatate to play, shattered, and then he's just too shattered to play against Rangers. So I think Hatate will play. It'll be another.
I don't see us changing our approach. I think Ange is probably going to view this game as a bit of a point to prove. And he'll want the guys that played, that got hurt at Hampden, to take to the pitch and try and put a few wrongs right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the only one. I think it's a toss-up between Rogic and O'Reilly, isn't it? And look, Rogic is a modern-day Hunscalper. He's done it. He's been there and done it against him. So I really like O'Reilly. I thought he was decent in the first half yesterday as well. And I think long-term he'll be the main man. But I want to see Tom in there as well. you know he can
It's
find
not-
that space.
as you
at
have
Celtic
talked about
Park
these
as well.
players and
Oh,
all
he's
that,
getting
I'm
confident
getting,
now.
I'm, getting,
Charming
I'm
him.
getting confident.
Well,
I'm just
I'll-
picturing Tom Roderick scored against Rangers. Hatate, he's scored against them. McGregor calling people shite bags. Kyogo. See if Kyogo scores a hat trick. I'm bleaching my hair. I'm bleaching my hair. I'm bleaching my hair.
If Maeda scores a hat trick, I'll
Shave
shave
your
my
head.
head. I'll grow a little moustache. Do you know that? See the graphic they put up that's got Maeda as the starting lineup. Celtic put out an hour before kickoff. His facial hair does look drawn on in that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they remember he shaved his
Yeah, he
moustache off and he lost his form for a wee bit. Maybe they drew it back on, hoping that would bring him back around. Seems implausible, but you never know.
You doing anything with your hair if any particular Celtic players score?
What could I do?
Took too long. Stephen, carry on.
Well, the more I think about it and the more we talk about it, I'm leaning towards Tom Rogic as well, to be honest. And we spoke about this the last time. He's edging towards like Alan Thompson and John Hartson levels of, as Melly puts it, Hunskelpen in the modern era. So he is the man for the big occasion. He is the man for these games. He wasn't great in the last game. Or the game at Ibrox, but he still popped up with that all-important goal.
I've got a complicated relationship with Tom Rogic, and not just the pronunciation of his surname, as is often pointed out to me. Sometimes when I'm watching Rogic, I think, just fucking hit it. Do you know what I mean? Don't try and finesse it. Just hit it, because quite often you'll see moves past one player, the shot's on, and then he'll cut back in, and you think, please just hit it. But you can't take that from his game, because that's who he is, and he's and you just have to accept that. You have to accept that side of Tom Rogic's game with the genius that he is.
Swaying the other way now. I'm just thinking, most of Tom Rogic's goals against them have been at Hampden or Ibrox, haven't they? He's got one at Celtic Park, hasn't he, when we romped him 5-0. So I don't know. O'Reilly and Hatate played in that last game against them at Celtic Park and absolutely ran rings.
O'Reilly's a
round
baller.
Yeah.
He's a really good player.
It's that energy in there. So I wonder if O'Reilly's a wee bit more physical than Rogic. He can get about the pitch more. So I wonder if maybe it's better starting O'Reilly and bringing on Rogic when the legs are tired. Because if Celtic go out and say whatever front three they pick and then the midfield free and absolutely press the life out of Rangers like we did at Celtic Park that time, they couldn't live with us, they couldn't live with the crowd, and we know what this team the Rangers are like when the pressure's on them. They wilt every time.
Imagine if for whatever reason McGregor was injured for one of these games and
MacArthur's in.
McCarthy and Beaton or something like that. Imagine Hatate turning up to the game, his eyes all bloodshot and all that as well. I'm shattered, man. I'm playing with McCarthy and Beaton. Come on, man. Can't he do this anymore?
Patreon. Patreon.com/20minutetims is where you can get extra wonderful content from the three of us about Celtic games, about Celtic history, in exchange for a very, very, very small sum. Throw some coins in the bucket. You can start at £2.50 a month. You get fan-led coverage of Celtic, and it doesn't stop throughout the summer. You might think, the Celtic, the season's wrapping up in a couple of weeks, couple of months. What you guys got? We'll tell you what we've got. Loads, and it's going to be sensational. So if you like that, or you just like watching the flagship and you want to support us, patreon.com/20minutetims. The link is down there, and obviously with the Rangers game coming up, we'll have reactions and all sorts on the next huge couple of games. That was the Patreon plug.
It was. Yeah, good bookends there.
Did you like that?
Yeah, smooth.
Have you got any worries for the lineups for the Celtic game? The only thing that you could probably point out is the lack of Juranovic at right back, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's to be honest, quite a small concern. Juranovic, I think, is on paper, the best right back at the club. He's the Croatian international and all that, but I think Ralston's just been really, really good this season. I can't get away from just thinking he's performed brilliantly. He's never really looked out of place, Ralston, at all, and that's remarkable when you think about it. Again, it's one of those things we'll be able to look back on this season and think, Tony Ralston played whatever it was, 28 games or something like that this season.
Speaking of bookends, I want to have the conversation about Tony Ralston exactly 1 year on from the day he signed that new contract.
We all rolled our eyes at it. It was the sign of absolute panic, handing out a new contract to Tony Ralston. I don't think you'd be hard pushed to find anyone outside of this room who thought that was a good idea. But no, it's been remarkable, and Juranovic being injured is one of the lowest concerns I would have across the pitch, really. That for anyone to come in and deputise, I think Ralston is about, if he's not the same level as Juranovic, he's close to it, and he's at least close enough to not make it a huge miss. I don't know if you could say that for many other positions over the course of the pitch. If McGregor was out, nothing like that. But, you would be at Beaton, who's a decent player. If Taylor was out, you'd be Scales. If Starfelt was out, Stephen Welsh. So I think Ralston is probably the best deputy we have in the squad.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's the way it's going to be. Celtic have been sort of settled with that sort of back five and Callum McGregor sitting in front of him. It's just a wee bit further forward. Things change, but Ralston coming in, good enough player, isn't he? He's been there and done it this season. He's been class, and it does give us a wee bit more presence in the height area, and that's probably the main worry I have for this game is they're
a big team, aren't they?
Yeah, the physicality and the height again, but Celtic aren't giving up chances again. The Rangers, they didn't beat us in 90 minutes at Hampden, so Celtic can get out of this with avoiding defeat. It'd be good, but imagine we win, man. It will be absolutely
But see, this
class.
is the thing, right? We're approaching the end of the podcast. It's becoming that time. But you two, are you talking like it's plain sailing? No worries here. No, I mean, what? There must be something. You must be thinking, sitting, going, I'm quite worried about X.
Oh, of course. I'm not saying it's plain sailing. I think I'm confident in Celtic, but with these games, as we've seen at the one at Hampden recently, you just don't know what's going to happen. It's a home game, so that gives us that advantage. But of course, Rangers are dangerous. We've played them 4 times this year, 2 wins each. It is close. So it's going to be a difficult game. I'm not expecting Celtic to turn up and get another 3-0. I don't think it will be like that. But I do believe Celtic can get a good result against them because look, we're a good team and look, they're a decent team as well.
Crucially, Melly touched on something that also Ange touched on after the Ross County game, and it was the defensive side of our game, which has been really strong. Really strong. And I know there was like a myth developing at some point that we had a shaky defence in the sort of outer press, not within this podcast. But Melly, we don't give up a lot of chances.
No.
Often the defences goes. I still think the defence is underrated, undercredited. Maybe is a better turn of phrase for it. They just don't get the credit outside that they deserve. Yeah,
well, that was another clean sheet of the weekend, and I'm almost certain Celtic have only conceded something like 6 or 7 goals in the league this year. It's in 2022. I think it's only 6 or 7, taking it to 19 overall. And like 2 of them were against Dundee at one point as well. So we've conceded very, very few goals this side of New Year in the league at all. There was Bodo and all that, and then we obviously lost in the cup semi-final. But in the league, it's been absolutely great, unbeaten for this length of time and barely conceding any goals in the process. But you're asking about our worries for the game. It's not so much a worry, but what I started talking about earlier was that if we turn up to this game in full party mode, full Australian hat, full
cats and kangaroos,
full inflatable kangaroo mode, Rangers could either see that as an opportunity to party poop, right?
Yeah,
they could go and say we're not out of this yet. It might be very, very close to being arithmetically over. But we're back in this.
I think that will be the Rangers' message within the camp.
Or are they done? Or will they turn up subconsciously, psychologically done? Will they see the party atmosphere at Celtic Park and wilt under it like they've done so before? Is that old chat about the hunger and all that for Goldson? I had to laugh at that, by the way. Did you see that?
Aye, he disputed it on his own Instagram account.
Aye, so he was like, I'm supposed to have lost my hunger. You said it.
Yeah.
You quite literally said it.
Connor Goldson is having a Barney with himself on Instagram. It's like, remember when Wayne Rooney tweeted saying he was going to knock himself out? It's like, little girl. Connor goes like, I've lost my hunger, aye. Connor, it was you that said it. You're looking at us for.
So that could be it. Time will tell, because it'll be a white hot atmosphere on Sunday morning into afternoon, and again, it could go either way. They could be right up for it, right up for spoiling the party, or they could be done, or they could, as I say, just wilt under the lights. It won't be lights under the sun, under the natural lights.
Good save, aye. Great save. Wonderful stuff. Look, and on that, we'll just wrap up because that was tremendous. Look, thank you so much to everyone who listens and watches and comments. Another massive game for Celtic. We'll be there covering it for Patreon, patreon.com/20minutetims. If you watch this, more than half the people that actually watch this aren't subscribed to the channel, so hit subscribe and that wee bell on YouTube. And if you listen on Spotify or any podcast apps, please leave us a lovely review. But most of all, thank you for watching and listening.